Good morning and welcome to Morning Scoop for Friday, March 25th. This is your daily Buckeye fix. I'm Tom Orr. The spring game is in 22 days, the Notre Dame game in 162 days, the game against Michigan in 246 days. We are headed into the first of several very big recruiting weekends this spring as the Buckeyes continue to build their class of 2023 and even get going on 2024 and beyond. There are at least 10 big names scheduled to come to Columbus this weekend, and Alex Gleitman wrote about all of them in his ADEC column this week. He joins me now. Alex, thanks as always for being here.
Always a pleasure, Tom. Happy to talk some recruiting. Back from break. It was a dead 10 days or so while they were on spring break, and players were out in Cancun and Florida, and I was here in cold New Jersey. So glad to be, we're all on the same page now and talking about recruiting.
Yeah, it was a little unfair to see the, Paris Johnson was in, I think, Brazil. There were a couple players that I was looking on Instagram and going, that looks like more fun than where I am. So
I think Coach Day was in Turks and Caicos, so that looked pretty nice as well.
Yeah, nice to have them back so that there's not quite that disparity of quality of life, and also to have a little football to talk about. There are several visitors who we talked about actually with Mark Givler on a show earlier this week. So we're going to set aside for the moment Luke and Brian Montgomery for now. We're actually going to start with defensive lineman A.J. Hoffler. Now, there is an old rule in recruiting that you watch what they do and not what they say. But with A.J. Hoffler, what he's doing and what he's saying, it all seems like it's kind of good news for Ohio State right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, A.J. Hoffler, this is his third visit on his own dime to Columbus from Georgia since the end of November. He came for the Michigan State game, came at the end of January, and now he's coming here at the end of March. And I asked him, why are you, I actually reached out to him to kind of see, like, oh, you planning your official visits? You coming in the spring, maybe coming in the summer? He's like, well, I'm coming March 25th weekend. And I said, whoa, why are you coming back so soon? He said, I really want to see how Coach Johnson coaches up the defensive linemen and works with the team and works with the unit. And, this is a kid who just has repeatedly told me since his visit back in November that Ohio State is his top choice. He loves Larry Johnson. He loves the opportunity that Ohio State provides him. And so, as you said, his actions match his words. 3 visits out of your own pocket. I'm sure he'll take an official visit to Ohio State probably in June before a decision comes at the end of the summer. So, I mean, look, Ohio State's in great shape here. As I wrote in the ADEC, the only thing I see that could keep A.J. Hoffler from not signing with Ohio State is Larry Johnson's future plans changing. If it becomes known that Larry Johnson is going to retire after this year or something along those lines, A.J. Hoffler will probably change his mind and at least reevaluate the situation. Doesn't mean Ohio State would be out, but I think right now, as things currently stand, Ohio State is in a great place to land A.J. Hoffler out of Atlanta, Georgia.
That's a name I think people who have been following recruiting have probably heard because he's been kind of around the program and around the conversation for a little while. But there's another 2023 defensive lineman visiting this weekend who is a guy that I hadn't really heard much about, even just like a month or two back, but who now seems like someone who's really seeing his recruitment kind of take off. That's Michael Kilbane. Let people know a little bit about him. Like, who is he as a prospect, and what's his level of interest with Ohio State?
Yeah, so he was like a linebacker, now kind of linebacker defensive end hybrid, probably going to be a down lineman defensive end at college. He's a kid who's at 6'4", 240 pounds right now, so you can understand why he's likely going to move down to defensive line full time at the next level. He's got 25 offers. I think right now out of those 25 offers, Penn State and Cincinnati are probably the 2 sticking out to him the most. Doesn't mean they're necessarily his best offers. I mean, they are probably up there for sure, but they are probably the ones sticking out. And this is a kid from Lakewood St. Edward's High School, which has been very good to Ohio State as they've offered kids in the past. They generally get most kids that they offer out of that school and really out of the whole Northeast Ohio region. So this is a kid who I think if Ohio State were to offer, they would absolutely shoot and vault to the top of the list. And look, they've had Larry Johnson, they've had Perry Eliano, they've had Ryan Day, and then as well as defensive line GA Cam Spence recruiting this kid over the last couple months. And those guys don't waste their time on someone who's not a potential realistic offer. So is this a kid who comes to Ohio State this weekend and leaves with an offer? That's certainly possible. Is he a kid who comes, they build a relationship, they feel really good, they just tell him, look, we just need to see you work out. Come to early June camp. Maybe we'll come out and see you, in April or May during the evaluation period. I don't know exactly when they may get that first real look at him up close and personal. My guess is if he doesn't get the offer this weekend, he'll probably need to earn it in early June camp. But I think he's going to be a kid who's going to be willing to come and do that. And I think if Ohio State offers, they're going to be in a really good position here.
All right, now we're going to switch to someone else. He's a 2023 defensive back. He's named Christian Gray out of De Smet, Missouri. And if that name sounds familiar, that is the same place as current OSU cornerback J.K. Johnson. So it sounds like this could be a very important visit for the Buckeyes and Christian Gray if they're going to stay in the running for his services at the college level.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's going to be tough. There's no doubt about it. Ohio State, I'll say probably this time a year ago, I think they might have been the team to beat at this point, last year in March. But I think Notre Dame made a really big push, probably late summer into the fall. I think they became the team to beat. But then things kind of got turned on its head. Brian Kelly left Notre Dame, took the head coaching job at LSU. And not only did he do that, where there's obviously a relationship there, but he went ahead and hired Robert Steeples as an on-field coach. And Robert Steeples, many of you probably don't know that name, but he was the head coach at the Smet High School. So Christian Gray, who's played for Robert Steeples the last 3 years and has a tremendous relationship with him, now has his former head coach recruiting him at LSU, along with Brian Kelly, who he had a great relationship at Notre Dame. So I think Ohio State is probably running third right now. I know LSU is firmly in this thing. I know that Notre Dame is still in this thing because, while Brian Kelly left, there's guys, Marcus Freeman, Mike Mickens, guys like that who are still on that staff, that were very involved in his recruitment that are still there. So I think this is going to be, look, Ohio State, it's great that they're getting the visit. I think it's a huge visit. We'll know after this, are they in or are they out? My guess is they're probably going to be out just because of, I think it's going to be very hard to beat LSU and Notre Dame, let alone just one of them. So that's just my guess. But look, you're getting a visit. They've been one of the top 2-3 schools at worst. You're in the game. I don't think a decision's imminent, but I do think one could come this summer. You got to hope that this visit allows you to push for official visits. You knock him out of his socks on your official visit, and then maybe you got a chance. But not too optimistic on this one.
It sounds like this is a little bit of a March Madness survive in advance kind of visit. Just keep yourself in the game, stay, don't get knocked out, and see what happens down the road. Next guy is another guy from a high school that has ties to a current Ohio State football player. Is Jaden Bonsu. He's a 2023 safety out of your neck in the woods in North Jersey. Let people know a little bit about him and his ties to the Ohio State program.
Yeah, I mean, Jaden's a real nice player out of St. Peter's Prep in Jersey City, New Jersey. 6'2", 190-pound kid, pure safety all the way. He's got a great offer list. Alabama, Oklahoma, Clemson, a lot of the big players in college football. Wouldn't be shocking for me to see Georgia enter the picture now that Fran Brown is there as defensive backs coach. He was, he's a Jersey guy, was at Rutgers before. Penn State's in this one, Michigan State, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Miami, USC, Wisconsin. So really big time programs after Jaden. That said, I don't know if all of those programs are ready to take Jaden just yet. And it's not because he's not a good player. I just think like Ohio State is probably one of those programs. I think a lot of the programs I just mentioned would take him in a heartbeat. And I think he's a player who is capable of being an Ohio State football player. But with Cedric Hawkins committed, with Damon Fagan visiting, Caleb Downs visiting next weekend, a few other big time safeties that are probably like tier 1A, Malik Hartford in state. There's 4 guys right there alone that I just named that I think that they would take before Jaden Bonsu. And that's not to say Jaden Bonsu is not a good player. I just think that he's probably tier 2. So I think this is going to be a really big visit because seeing this kid up close and personal for the first time, it could change their opinion. You just see some of the intangibles. You get to know his personality. You get to size him up and measure him and just kind of see the way, he looks in person. And I think that that's a really big opportunity, for Ohio State. It's also a big opportunity for Jaden Bonsu. I mean, this is going to be his first look at Ohio State. Same high school as Cody Simon. So there is a relationship there at the school. But Jaden's a lot of those guys, they really look up to Cody Simon. I mean, he was a big time leader and captain of that football team. And so having a guy like that, some other guys from that conference, Luke Whippler, Javante Jean-Baptiste, Tyler Friday, they're all really, really well respected in that conference that St. Peter's plays in, with Don Bosco and Bergen Catholic and all those schools. So, I think that this is a really big visit. They're going to make him feel comfortable, I think, with those guys that I just mentioned. I think they're going to, Eliano and Tim Walton and Ryan Day are going to do a great job, and Jim Knowles as well. But at the end of the day, and I think it's fine, because I don't think Jaden Bonsu is ready to make a commitment right now. I think he's a kid who's going to take official visits and then going to make a decision. So I think Ohio State just needs to build a relationship here. I think they gotta keep his attention, obviously make him feel like a priority, and then when push comes to shove for both Jaden Bonsu and Ohio State, they're both going to have to make a decision, and we'll see where things are when that happens.
It is wild to me that all of a sudden everyone knows where St. Peter's is and where Jersey City is. The basketball team has quite literally put them on the map. So yes, everyone knows where St. Peter's Prep is now. So that's good news for that program. So we'll keep an eye on Jaden Bonsu there. We've spent the whole show talking about the defense, so let's give a little equal time to the offense. The last guy up is someone that Mark Givler saw at the Under Armour camp last weekend. He wrote about him on the site, but we didn't actually talk about him on the show when I talked to Mark. So let's talk about Ben Roebuck. He's a 2024 offensive lineman. What are you hearing about him?
Yeah, I mean, massive kid, 6'7", 300 some odd pounds. He's just, I think if and when Ohio State offers, he's going to be a Buckeye. He's just one of those types of kids. Another St. Edward kid. He's a 2024 kid, so they got some time. I don't think they need to offer immediately. Penn State has offered. Boston College has offered. Cincinnati has offered. Michigan, Kentucky, Michigan State, Northwestern, Rutgers, Tennessee, West Virginia. I'm just rattling off. I'm looking at the list right now. I mean, really big time schools have offered, but those schools can all afford to offer and then kind of walk back on it. Ohio State can't afford to do that. And I think they've done a great job of building that relationship with Ben and kind of just telling him, be patient, let us get through our process. Let us do what we need to do to evaluate you. If he walked away from the visit this weekend and got an offer from Justin Fry, I wouldn't be completely shocked. But again, this could be a situation where they say, hey, come out to camp. We'll make the decision then. You do good, you're going to get your offer. And I think that's probably the more likely scenario, just because they don't want to jump the gun too early. And I think having the opportunity to have Justin Fry work with this kid, I mean, they could use that excuse. New O-line coach, he wants to work with you. He wants to see, how you kind of take to his coaching and how you do his drills. I think that's probably going to be the more likely scenario. So I'm keeping an eye on it as a storyline to watch this weekend. But this is a kid, grew up a Buckeye fan, Northeast Ohio, Cleveland area. I think if they offer him, they're going to be awfully tough to beat. I would say right now, out of all those offers, Penn State is probably the one that's doing the best job, giving Ohio, at least going to make it a fight with Ohio State.
With a St. Edward's kid, I was listening for Notre Dame on that list, and I didn't hear Notre Dame, so that's another one to keep an eye on. All of the with St. Ed's kids, that's always a one to kind of keep in the back of your mind. There were 5 other guys who you wrote about in your ADAC column this week that people can find on our Ask the Insiders board. You've been very busy this week. You also dropped a new episode of your podcast, Around the Oval. Who'd you talk to this week?
Yeah, I brought on Alan Bell, an analyst at CBS Sportsline. Great service that provides a ton of data. They provide their own picks. You can just kind of fade or follow their picks, but you also have the opportunity to it's a subscription service, just like Buckeye Scoop. So for $10 a month, I think it is something like that. You get access to tons and tons of data and analysis that can help you make the best decisions when it comes to sports wagering. So with March Madness, Sweet 16, Elite 8 weekend, thought it was a great opportunity to bring him on. He gave some advice about making some future bets. Right now, as we're down to 16 teams, we also talked a little college football, talked about Ohio State's odds to win the national championship next year, talked about some other good future bets in college football and things to look at and teams to watch. So definitely recommend giving it a listen. Alan and I go way back to my days at 24/7. He's a great dude and really knows his stuff. So I was excited to have him on, and it's always good when he can help you make a little bit of money too.
Well, hopefully you are subscribed to Around the Oval, like I've been telling you should be for years at this point now. But you can find it. If you're not, you can find it at wherever you're finding the Morning Scoop, Spreaker, SoundCloud, Spotify, you name it. All those podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We're on all of them. Just search Buckeye Scoop to find all of them. Hurry up and download Around the Oval. Maybe make yourself some money this weekend. But then also take time to find all of the other great shows we put out. Gives in the Bank with Mark Givler and Bill the Bank Green. The Big Meat Kickoff Podcast with Kevin Noon. Buckeye Weekly with Tony Gerderman and myself. You can find them all by searching Buckeye Scoop wherever you're listening to this. You can subscribe right there, and we would really appreciate a 5-star rating and review as well. That helps other folks find these shows. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We will talk to you tomorrow.